You're watching Uterson Neck, and this is part 3 of a tutorial on fixing security cameras that aren't working. In this series, we'll show you step by step how to fix camera problems in a simple way, without any special tools. Even if you've never worked with security cameras before, following these steps will help you get your cameras working again. But before moving forward, keep in mind that you should watch this video only if none of your cameras are working. Each one uses its own individual power supply, and there's no functional camera available for testing. If at least one camera is working, you should watch part 1. But if none of your cameras are working and all cameras share the same power supply, then you should watch part 2 instead. If none of your cameras are working and you're not sure what type of power supply they use, check around the DVR area. That's usually where you'll find the power supply or the individual power adapters for the cameras. But if you still can't figure it out, don't worry. We can guide you through it. We offer free support for all kinds of technical issues. All we ask in return is that you subscribe and like the video to help us continue creating content. Our support contact info is in the video description and in a pinned comment. Once you know which video applies to your case, you'll find the links to parts 1 and 2 in the description and in the pinned comment. You should also see on-screen cards for both videos. Just tap or click the one you want to watch. Now, let's take a look at a standard security camera setup. This part is especially helpful if you haven't seen the other videos and don't have experience with security cameras, because it will make it easier to follow the tests we'll be showing. A standard setup usually includes a DVR, which displays, records, and transmits camera footage not only to a connected monitor, but also to mobile phones and computers through the network. It also includes the cameras themselves, which can vary in brand, model, and technology, ranging from older analog types to more modern HD versions. For video transmission, installers typically use video cables with BNC connectors. These are often coaxial cables, but in some cases people also adapt UTP cables for the job. The system also requires a power supply and power wires with P4 connectors. Each camera can have its own dedicated power supply, or all cameras can share a single one, which may be a honeycomb-style unit or a simple power supply with the wires spliced together. When powered, the cameras capture video and send it to the DVR. Now that you know what a standard security camera installation looks like, let me show you a simple test. This test will help you find out if a camera that isn't working is getting any power at all from the power supply. It's a quick check that will be really useful once you start going through the troubleshooting steps we'll cover in this video. If a camera isn't working and you don't have any special tools, the first thing to check is whether it's receiving power. To do this, cover the camera's light sensor and see if the infrared LEDs turn on. These LEDs handle night vision. The sensor activates the LEDs when the area gets dark, illuminating the scene with infrared light so the camera can capture video even in darkness. Infrared light is invisible to the human eye, but when the LEDs are on, you might see a faint red glow. If you don't see this glow, most phone cameras can still detect the infrared light. This is especially useful at night or in dark areas, because using your phone camera can quickly confirm whether the camera is powered and the infrared LEDs are working. But keep in mind that this may not work with iPhones, as they often have a filter that blocks infrared light. Now that you know the basics, let's start the tests. But before moving forward, make sure the cameras not displaying video aren't being blocked by a DVR setting. For example, some DVRs have a digital mode. When a channel is set to digital, it won't show video from a camera connected to the DVR's BNC input. Make sure there isn't any setting like this enabled on your DVR. Also, check whether the non-working cameras are compatible with the DVR. Some DVRs cannot display video from incompatible cameras. Here's a quick tip. If the cameras were working before and then stopped, they're compatible with your DVR. You only need to check compatibility if it's the first time using these cameras with this DVR. Once the DVR settings are correct and cameras are compatible, we can move on to the tests. The first test you might consider is checking the DVR's video inputs to see if they're working. However, since there's no functional camera available, testing the inputs can be tricky. If the DVR has a composite video output and supports CVBS cameras, you can use the output to test the inputs. Take a short wire, strip the ends, connect one end to the center pin of the DVR's BNC video output and the other end to the center pin of each DVR BNC input. For each input you connect the wire to, the DVR's interface should appear on the corresponding channel if the input is working and the DVR supports CVBS cameras. If the DVR does not support CVBS cameras or lacks a composite video output, it won't be possible to check the video inputs this way. Since each camera is connected to its own power supply, the next step is to test the power supplies to see if any are working. Usually, you'd use a multimeter, but this tutorial focuses on fixing problems without special tools, so let's test the power supplies manually. To find out if there's at least one working power supply and one working camera, test each power supply with each camera. Disconnect all power supplies. Pick one power supply and connect it to the first camera. Wait a moment and check if the camera's video appears on the DVR. If it doesn't, connect the same power supply to the second camera. If any power supply works with any camera, use that working power supply to test the remaining cameras, and use the working camera to test the remaining power supplies. Once you identify at least one working power supply and one working camera, replace any faulty power supplies with working ones of the same specifications. At this point, all power supplies should be working, and at least one camera should be functional. In this case, just keep watching. We'll soon show you how to solve the problem when you have at least one working camera. If none of the cameras work with any power supply, you need to run another test to determine if any cameras or power supplies are still functional. Remove all cameras from their installations to test them directly. This avoids issues caused by faulty cables. Connect each power supply to all cameras, one by one. Connect the first power supply to the first camera. Cover the camera's light sensor with your hand and check if the infrared LEDs turn on. If the LEDs don't turn on, connect the same power supply to the next camera and repeat. Test all cameras with the current power supply, then move to the next power supply and repeat. If a power supply doesn't power on any camera and the LEDs on the cameras aren't defective, the power supply is faulty and must be replaced with one of the same specifications. After testing all cameras and power supplies, if at least one camera's LEDs turn on with any power supply, use that camera to test the remaining power supplies and use the working power supply to test the remaining cameras. Replace any faulty power supplies with working ones of the same specifications. Test the cameras that powered on their LEDs directly on the DVR to see if they produce video. Get a simple wire and strip both ends. Connect one end to the center pin of the camera's BNC connector and the other end to the center pin of a DVR input. Make sure the outer shells of the camera and DVR BNC connectors are touching. If the camera is working and the connection is correct, its video should appear on the DVR. If no video appears, the camera may be defective. Test it on the other DVR inputs before replacing it. Repeat this for each camera. Once you have all power supplies working and at least one functional camera or all cameras working, test the cables. Connect all cables to the DVR inputs and the respective power supplies. Connect the functional camera to the first cable to test. If the camera's video appears on the DVR, the cable is fine and you can install a permanent camera. If the video doesn't appear, cover the camera's light sensor and check the infrared LEDs. If the LEDs don't turn on, check the P4 connector and the power wires, replacing if necessary. If the LEDs do turn on, check the video cable and BNC connectors, replacing if necessary. Once the cable issues are resolved, the functional camera's video should appear on the DVR and you can install the permanent camera. Repeat for each cable. Once finished, your camera system should be fully restored. You've now reached the end of part 3. By carefully following these steps, you should know whether the problem was with a power supply, a cable, a connector, or a camera, and you've taken the necessary steps to fix it. This method is designed so even beginners can solve camera issues without special tools. Your system should now be fully operational, or you know exactly which components need replacing. If you still have questions, encounter a situation not covered here, or need extra guidance, contact our free technical support. All contact details are in the description and pinned comment. To keep learning and improving your security system, subscribe to the channel, turn on notifications, and like this video to keep up with our tutorials. Thanks for watching, and see you in the next video. God bless you.